Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Big show tonight as we get ready for the Rutgers game, the destruction of Rutgers, most likely. It's always that fun game of the year where, can you, like last year's game is dynamic and everything as Ohio State was. Seemed like they almost put me to sleep in the second half that's what it seems like this game is usually is.
Yeah, it kind of underwhelms you. You're expecting to beat this team by 100 most years, and I don't know, it just doesn't happen. But they're the pesky Piscataway boys.
Yeah. Normally they don't have any issues with them. It's just I don't really think Ohio State. Normally, it's a game that they just don't give a crap about.
It's Rutgers, though. I mean, how can you overwhelm and impress when you're playing Rutgers?
Yeah,
you got to do everything perfectly, and you got to do it, so well on top of that. So not only can you not make mistakes, but you got to execute just phenomenally for someone to say that you did not underwhelm against Rutgers when you're Ohio State.
And you always get some fan response and some media response. If they don't beat them by 50, it's like, oh, are we really as good as we think we are?
Well, I mean, that's Ohio State every year against any opponent that's lesser than them.
Yeah.
If you don't beat someone by, 5 scores, you're nothing.
Exactly. All right. So before we get into the show tonight, I wanted to quickly something we shared out the other night on social media. I just wanted to mention it here on the show. I did throw up a thing about this virtual charitable bourbon event that the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Ohio is doing, which obviously, Buckeye Bar Talk, Buckeye Bar Guys, and we have plenty of bourbon over here.
We love our bourbon.
So it's a Woodford Reserve, and the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Ohio are basically teamed up to do this event. Of course, Woodford is really good bourbon. And so basically what it is it's a virtual event. Tickets starting out are $85, and the proceeds are going to go to the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Central Ohio. And basically what you do is you just you go on, you buy the tickets online. I will give the website here in a minute, but I also will post it on the show notes. And then you go down to after you get the tickets, the Bogey Inn in Dublin, Ohio. That's where you will pick up all your bourbon supplies and everything that comes in the gift basket. So the event's Friday, November 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And the deadline to register is this coming Monday, November 9th. Tickets can be bought at https://p2p.onecause.com. So that's P as the letter, 2 is the number, P.ONECAUSE.com. And then it's /Big Night of Bourbon. And again, I will, and that's just all squished together. I will post that on our show notes. So you have, I checked today, they still have tickets available. So going to be a good cause, anything that, anything you can do for charity. Big Brothers, Big Sisters are good organizations, and we would appreciate it if you have the means and if you have the time on the 13th. Sounds like a pretty awesome event.
Yeah, I mean, again, Woodford's great bourbon too. Yeah. So great cause, great bourbon. You can't go wrong with this.
And you get so the samples you're going to get is Woodford Reserve Distiller Select, Woodford Reserve Double Oak, and Woodford Reserve Rye. I've had Double Oak and the Rye before. I don't think I've had the Select.
Well, that's just your normal
Woodford. Oh, then I've had the Select. So I've had the Double Oak at a I believe I had the Double Oak. I had it a couple years ago. At a
Wink and Lizard, maybe?
Yeah, probably Wink and Lizard. But I definitely have had the regular, the Distiller Select and the Rye. I'm pretty sure I've had the Double Oak, but I love Woodford.
Double Oak's great. Yeah.
It's good bourbon.
You can't go wrong with it.
So
I know they came out with some different ones this year, or maybe they had them out, but they're selling them in Ohio now. That a couple different types of Woodford that I've been meaning to try.
Yeah. And their master distiller, Chris Morris, will be actually part of the event. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure you'll get to ask him hopefully some questions through that if that's available. So again, we'll post this in the show notes. Good cause. If you can do it, it's a virtual event, so it's you don't have to worry about with the pandemic and stuff going around being in a bunch in a big setting. So you just sign up for your tickets, go to that bogey inn, get your supplies, and good night of drinking good bourbon at home.
Absolutely.
And your money's going to some good causes. All right, so we're going to get into just quickly talking about Rutgers. So they won their first game. They beat Michigan State. I just had the score here, and then they lost last week to Indiana. So you just quickly
I know Michigan State had like 6 or 7 turnovers in that game. So a lot of people say, because I think they only won by maybe like 10 or 11, and a lot of people say it had, if it wasn't for all those turnovers, Michigan State would have beat them. So that's kind of, I think they started off pretty well against Indiana too. That game was close, and then the second half happened. So, which, I don't know. Rutgers making it to second halves. That's something.
Yeah.
They didn't before.
And, Indiana's a good team. I think there's a lot of question marks about Michigan State, even though they, beat Michigan last week.
Well, Indiana is going to beat Michigan this week. They're going to beat Indiana's going to have beaten Penn State and Michigan in the same year.
That'll be an interesting game in a couple of weeks. I actually look forward to talking to that, because I think that's going to be our next big challenge, where this kind of this streak where you thought we were going to coast through. Now, I don't think they're going to beat us, and I don't think it will be close, but definitely not a game they're going to be sleeping on.
No, but they won't be sleeping on that.
So the games at this week's games 7:30 and nighttime. I hate when they do Rutgers as night games.
It seems like they do them all the time, and I know people like I've seen so much on social media. They're like, "Why would you have Rutgers at night? Why is this a primetime game?" It's like, man, I feel like 2 out of the last 5 years have been night games against Rutgers, because they want. That's the BTN's one night game for Ohio State.
Well, I'll let everybody know why it's a night game. You just said it as, BTN, part of the whole deal with BTN is they get every Big Ten school. However, schools like Ohio State and Michigan, they literally get them for one non-conference game and then one conference game. And so the one conference game for Ohio State is always Rutgers. And, this year you're not playing a non-conference game. So, you're getting Ohio State. So, that's your night game.
That's what they're going to do. So it is what it is. Just at least we're not in Piscataway. That way it's not because they got shut out why they didn't get to shoot off their cannon.
Remember how sad they looked tonight?
Oh, my God. That guy looked like he hadn't shot off a cannon in 50 years.
All right. Probably so they got they have a transfer quarterback, Noah Vedro. I don't know how much you really have gotten to look him up.
Well, he was from Nebraska. I know that. He didn't play too much last year. I know Martinez was hurt, so he got some playing time.
Yeah, he did get in some.
But it doesn't seem like he's having like a terrific year so far.
So he went 21 to 30 for 130 and 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions against Michigan State. And then he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception last week against Indiana, 18 of 29. So, he's not getting a lot of yards. He 130 the first game, 169 the second game, 62% completion last week. It seems like one of those things that, Ohio State will probably, really befuddle him, I would assume.
I would think so.
Throughout the game. He's not a big guy, 6'1", 195 pounds. I'm assuming
those guys give Ohio State more trouble than big quarterbacks sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know how much of I probably have to look at the running stats. How much of you got to figure if he was coming through, Nebraska, he'd be a little bit more of a runner.
I don't think, because I looked him up the other day. I don't think he had anything great as far as rushing stats.
It doesn't really give him a lot on rushing stats. So I'm assuming not actually that much runner.
Or it's just not, their system's not designed that way that the quarterback runs in it.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
They don't pass much. So I think for both offense and defense, looks like Rutgers is in the bottom half of the nation for both of them, which, I mean, to Greg Schiano's credit, Rutgers, I'm pretty sure, was in like the bottom 10 in both those categories, forever. So that's something. But it just doesn't seem like they really got a lot to offer. Like their rushing stats, I think their top running backs averaging like 3 yards a carry, something like that. So again, it just doesn't seem like it's really anything that's going to give Ohio State any sort of problem.
Yeah. So their top running back is Isaiah Pacheco. He looks like he had he's had 85 yards so far, 3 yards a carry for the year. I mean,
it's not. I don't know. I don't think they do a lot offensively.
Yeah. Now the one guy I was looking at this actually was their top rusher last week, Kayron Adams. And of course, he's from Warren, and he's actually, for a running back, I mean, he's 5'10", 203 pounds.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's from Ohio. I'm sure this is kind of a big game for him.
I'm sure.
I mean, I'm not thinking that he's going to do anything spectacular against Ohio State, but he did run for a 12.6 average last week. 5 attempts, 63 yards, and a touchdown. So, I mean, this guy could actually possibly take over as possibly their top back.
Come into Columbus, wants to, impress in his home state. Could happen.
Yeah. So they're receiving. They don't really have any big time receivers.
I can't say the one. It's like Cruikshanks or something.
Yeah. I mean,
I think he's their best one.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that.
So he's gotten, he's again, nothing really too crazy.
Not Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave.
No, so far his career stats or his 2020 stats are 7 receptions for 56 yards. His long's 30, 1 attempt.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe he's not their best receiver. I thought he was, but
no, I think he's their top. He's their top guy.
That's why I just don't think they can do a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it really sounds like Michigan State shot themselves in the foot with the 6 or 7 turnovers that they had.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that's 38 points. I'm assuming that when we get into the scores later, I think we'll probably both be in that same, that range. Defense, it'll be interesting to see how the defense does against us. I mean, we're going to overwhelm them so much, but that is Schiano's specialty. And, I'm sure this is a big game for him because,
it's his former team. I mean, Ryan Day pretty much told him to hit the road when he came in. So, yeah, I think the way Greg made it sound was they have a good relationship, the two of them, but Ryan Day didn't keep him. He wasn't trying to keep him.
Yeah. So,
I mean, Schiano, because this is his first year at Rutgers, right?
Yeah.
Back. So, I mean, he was, he was sitting unemployed for a year.
Yeah. So, of course, Tennessee only has themselves to blame for that one. But.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of teams that would have been in better shape with Schiano over whoever they have right now.
Yeah. So, I mean,
South Carolina could fire Will Muschamp at any time.
I mean, there's just not really much to talk about with Rutgers. I mean, they're Rutgers.
I know. And I don't want to not do the due diligence of looking into them or anything. It's just, we went over. I mean, they're not an overwhelming team. I don't think their defense is anything spectacular either, but again, it seems like they're trending upwards because they've played in conference games and they're still only in the, bottom half of the NCAA, even though all teams hadn't played at that time, but
they have the same record as Michigan.
That is true. They do have the same record as Michigan. So, I mean, if that says anything for the state of the program, then.
And they might actually, there's a possibility they're both going to have the same record after this week. And I know Rutgers is going to have 2 losses. So.
Yeah, I know. That's sad for those guys.
Yeah.
What a pompous, that kid. And I'm not going to insult, that's always one of my things. I don't want to be ever too hard on kids playing a game. And I'm sure Joe Milton was just having fun, but how can you say that guy, the Antoine, was it Simmons, whoever the guy on Michigan State. How could you say he wasn't on your radar in the post game interview? I don't know who that is.
Just stupid.
Yeah.
All right. So let's quickly we'll talk a little bit more about Rutgers once we get into our three things here at the end of the show and the thing. So we get the big game this weekend. The Trevor Lawrence-less Clemson Tigers against Notre Dame. Kind of what's your thoughts about that?
I think Clemson's a little bit more confident once, I'm not going to say the guy's last name, DJ, he actually started throwing on Boston College in that second half of that game. So I'm sure that helped them a lot with the confidence. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see. I'm at Notre Dame. They've ran okay. I think Clemson's more susceptible to the pass. Honestly, what gets Clemson, and I mean, this is no shocker, this would get any team, but it seems like, balance is really just what you have to go after them with is don't be one dimensional. Of course, that's kind of, again, like that, what would you try on any great defense? Of course, you're going to try to be balanced, but I don't think Clemson has a great defense this year, but they could get to that point. And this could definitely be one of those like signature games that kind of gets them over the hump. Loss in this game for Clemson definitely doesn't derail their season. I don't see them losing though. I think do you have the spread?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I had it just a minute.
Is it?
It is Clemson's a 5-point favorite.
That's a lot. I mean, I realize Trevor Lawrence isn't there. That's a lot of respect though. I think Clemson will cover that.
Yeah. The thing I've always said about Notre Dame, and I seem like a lot of the Notre Dame fans have come out of the woodwork this week on social media. I saw a lot of them.
Yeah, they're talking a lot of smack over there.
That I always get interested when Notre Dame gets into these games because I always expect them. I mean, they have good talent at Notre Dame. I mean, I've always said that the one thing that always drives me nuts is though, why can't you get better talent? I mean, they have such an advantage. I mean, some of the best high schools in the country are Catholic high schools.
Right.
And, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, just think here in Ohio between like Iggy and St. Ed's and then the Cincinnati schools, I mean, there's so many good Catholic programs. And then you throw in the Don Bosco's out in New Jersey and, St. Aquinas down in Florida and Mater Dei out in California. I mean, there's tons and tons of good Catholic high schools. I mean, you look at the USA top 25, there's always a bunch of Catholic high schools.
Well, and then, when people get into that, just that culture and get used to being a part of, the faith-based schools. So, I mean, they really buy into that and they kind of want to continue that throughout, college. And like you're saying, they kind of have that just affiliation with Notre Dame and our fans.
Yeah. And I mean, we know, we're both Catholic. I mean, we both have friends that literally, like Notre Dame just because
of
their
religion. Yeah.
So like
craziest thing.
Like, and something I've never understood because they've always been, for the most part, they've been outside of, me being Joe Montana's one of my favorite NFL players
and liking the movie Rudy
that, Notre Dame's always been in my top 5 of most hated, football programs. So
I heard before people hated playing with Rudy.
I mean, he was a bench warmer.
I got some inside sources on that one. They said he was a jerk to play against. I think he must have went hard every practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. So I think, that's one of the big games for this weekend. I think the other big one, which will be interesting to see is how is Florida with, their issues with COVID and everything. And
have they played?
They're playing Georgia this weekend. I don't know. Did they end up playing last week or not?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, they're 3-1. So they
maybe not.
But they missed the week before. Georgia's 4-1.
Well, I know they missed LSU. I know that for sure.
Yeah. So, let's see if I can.
Maybe they haven't played. I look for Georgia to win.
They did. No, they had the brawl. Missouri.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I don't. Once Ohio State's playing, especially if you're playing around the same time, I'm not watching.
Yeah.
I'm a fan, so I try to be as educated with what's going on with the other teams as much as I can. But yeah, Ohio State's going first.
So Georgia's a 3.5 point favorite on that one. I mean, is that being kind to Florida? Is being kind of a diss to Georgia because they have no offense?
How much?
3.5. I mean,
well, I mean, it's a good game, but I still don't think Florida's there yet. I think Georgia covers. I think Georgia might cover that easily.
Like, I haven't been sold on Florida in a long time, since pretty much Urban's been there.
No, but I haven't been sold on Georgia in a long time, and I think they've gotten worse each year since that playoff year.
Yeah.
Like that, they're a team that is just like, did you doubt in your mind going into that SEC championship game last year that LSU was going to beat them?
No, I mean, I knew that.
And LSU kind of like, they had a weak run defense.
Yeah.
And that kind of like, well, if Georgia, that's what Georgia does well is they run, but it's just like, since that, Nick Chubb and Sony Michel year is just kind of like, what the multiplicity copies of copies, and they keep getting a little stranger. They get a little stranger each time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just their backs. They aren't what they are. I know their defense is great. I'm not, but defense can only hold up so long. Ohio State, that showed in like 2016 when they played Clemson that eventually it just, when you are getting no offensive production, it breaks. But Florida has a good defense too. I don't know. Gut is telling me Georgia, and it's not going to be that close.
Yeah, I mean,
2 scores.
Yeah, I think for like a Georgia team, I mean, that's kind of a 2-score win. Feels like a blowout, though. I mean, I think Georgia's defense is for real. I mean, what we saw against Alabama for, a good chunk of the game, their defense showed up. And
they were winning.
It's just the problem is, again, that whole, if you don't have an offense.
Eventually, a team's going to, they'll bust through.
And Nick Saban brought up a great point last week. They were talking about it during the Ohio State game. It's just great defenses without any offense just don't win anymore.
You can't. You can't keep it. You can't keep a great offense out of the end zone.
These offenses get so many. I mean, they get so many possessions, and then the rules have definitely shifted so much through the years. Everything's favoring the offense now. So it just that's where Georgia always falls short. I mean, you really do need to be balanced. You got to have a really good offense. You have to have a really good defense. I mean, because the Big 12 suffers on the opposite side of it. They don't have a defense that can shut anybody down.
I mean, every now and then Jim Tressel's teams could at least throw the ball too.
Yeah. And then the other thing wanted to really throw out there is that the Pac-12 is back this week, so
they're already down a game though, right?
Yeah, they are down a game. Washington Cal got canceled. So it'll be interesting to see some of the other teams are back.
How can they cancel the first week?
You think you'd be prepared for that one?
I mean, honestly, how much they announced their season within the same week the Big Ten did, didn't they?
Yeah, like a week and a half later.
So how could you have not had protocols in place that you weren't spreading COVID? I mean, you get over it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
10 days, you're going to get a negative test, right?
Yeah, you should.
So they had plenty of time.
Yeah, I don't know when their official testing began.
That's 2020 for you though, right?
So of course the thing that sucks about the Pac-12 schedule this week is that somehow USC, which I mean, don't get me started on USC, but how the hell are they a noon game? I mean, what's Fox doing there?
Well, what? When's isn't Michigan, Indiana? Aren't they a noon game?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but that's FS1. That's not even on Fox. So, how can you put? Basically, they're gonna be playing football 9 a.m.
right out there. Yeah,
and so that's crazy to think of.
Yeah, that is weird.
Stanford, Oregon's the night game, so I think that would be interesting. That's the ABC night game.
I think we're gonna get a good measuring stick to see, how good or good gauge of how good Oregon really is.
And, they're a 9-point favorite, but I think last year was kind of a fluke year for Stanford. I mean, Stanford, I think they'll be kind of back to where they were, that, that just the way that Shaw runs that team is they're just kind of like they're the opposite of so many of the teams out there, so it's kind of hard to play with.
Yeah.
And
they really are.
And Oregon's had trouble with that over the years.
It's kind of like your Kansas States and Iowa States in the Big 12. It's just like you don't see this the other 10 weeks of the season or whatever it is. And that's why those teams can pull those upsets, is because sometimes they'll grind it out with you and you're not ready for that. So Oregon, Cristobal, I mean, I think they're down Herbert, but I think their offense was still pretty good last year, right? I know it's definitely.
I don't remember.
I know it's a lot different than, Helfrich and Chip Kelly, of course, but defenses have been a little behind. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, is it completely out of the realm of possibility that Stanford wins that game?
No, I actually think they could. I mean, I don't even know if Oregon's going to cover. I mean, we don't know. I mean, 9 points against Stanford, that's a big spread for the first game of the season.
He's had some great recruiting classes.
He has. Now they could easily blow him out, but I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. I think Stanford usually always plays them very tough, and
well, that's when Stanford could just push them around.
Yes, and I'm assuming that he's going to have all offensive line and he's going to have running backs, and
yeah.
So definitely, I think that game will be closer than a lot of people think. The thing that sucks about this week, the one good thing about the Pac-12 is you always had Pac-12 after dark. That was like always your nightcap. That the 10:30 game.
Goofy things happen then.
Washington State, Oregon State. You think they could have picked a better, Why isn't USC Arizona State at 10:30?
No, I get that.
Or even Arizona Utah. I mean, that's a 3:30 game.
That really does surprise me that USC Arizona State's that early.
I don't know why they
because Arizona State, I mean, they're not great, but they're not terrible.
Yeah, it's just I mean, I
you think Herm beats USC?
It'll be interesting.
Do they have fans?
I don't think that. Probably not.
Being out there
west, and it's in California, so I'm assuming no.
Yeah.
Maybe Arizona State would have fans, but I mean, of course, they might have the same rules as the Big Ten.
Big Ten's revisiting fans, possibly.
I mean, I've heard a couple of things that they might be revisiting. I've heard that they might be revisiting the protocols. So I mean, I'm not going to assume there was how many times at the beginning of the season I took guesses just from reading people on Twitter that they were getting ready to revote, and then kind of when they ended up revoting, it was
like the 5. Yeah,
literally like it came like we found out. I think it was on Saturday. That Saturday, we found out that we were going to be meeting on Sunday to discuss with the doctors. And then they might be taking a vote next week. And I think that was the most official word we had the whole time.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. I guess it all depends on what USC is looking like. So it's hard in the middle of a season, not really knowing what USC is all about to say that one. What's the spread on that?
Hold on.
Well, you know what? I'm saying Arizona State wins outright. So
USC is 10.5.
Arizona State outright.
10.5 in the morning.
Right. 9 in the morning, your first game. Arizona State outright, though. They're going to win.
Which, Herm's going to play like just really conservative football. I mean,
gosh, that's
might
their
be,
games drive.
That might be a very interesting snoozer big noon game.
Oh, that was like, who did them at Michigan State? Didn't they play a couple years, like last year or the year before? It was like 7-6 or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to pull up the Big Ten here, but for some reason it's not working on my ESPN app.
Well, we know Michigan's playing Indiana. So, I need to know the spread of that before I say what I'm going to say.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I'll get some hopefully here in a second.
Yeah, that's what'd you say that night game was?
The Oregon State, Washington State. That's their 10th.
Leach isn't even there anymore.
I know.
Who wants to watch that?
Oregon State's the Rutgers of the West.
All right, I got it up too. So
Michigan's a 3.5 point favorite.
I'm saying Michigan's going to win and they'll cover. So I'm changing it up. I think that's too embarrassing. I still think they have a competitive advantage over Indiana. I think they'll beat them.
I'm actually going Indiana in this game. I think.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. That's a very close line. So
I mean, I didn't watch a lot of Indiana Rutgers. I wasn't interested at all in watching Indiana Rutgers.
Yeah.
I did watch a decent amount of Indiana Penn State, and even though Penn State, as we talked about last week, did dominate, them on the
everything,
but I watched the entire Michigan State game, and I mean, I'm just not impressed with Michigan.
I don't know if Penix can throw though.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's like, he's this dual threat guy. I don't think he has that good of an arm. And maybe I'm just, what I saw against Penn State, maybe I'm not giving him a fair shot there, but I don't know. I don't know if he can spread out that team like what Michigan State did. And I didn't think Michigan State was going to be anything special either. I still don't think they are, but I mean, that's just kind of odd to me I don't think Penix has the arm. I don't know. I don't think he can, do what Michigan State did in that game.
Yeah. You get the Big Ten.
Yeah. So
we're using my Big Ten. That portion's just not working on the ESPN app for me.
All right. So on Big Ten Network at noon, you got Northwestern, Nebraska. Northwestern's giving 3.5. They're 2-0 on the year. Nebraska's 0-1, of course, because they didn't play last week. So what do you think?
Who's the favorite again?
Northwestern.
So you said 2.5,
3.5.
I'm going with Nebraska. I picked them to win the conference, to win the West. They're got to be hungry to play football again. And now they've actually, unlike the first game of the year where it's kind of, it's new because, you haven't got to see anybody play. They've seen Northwestern play twice now. And, Northwestern's only gotten to see them play Ohio State once. And,
right.
And both Nebraska and Ohio State, in my opinion, were kind of vanilla. I want to see how Nebraska tries to stretch secondaries because it just, there was no downfield throwing at all against Ohio State. So,
yeah, it seems like Northwestern has a pretty good rush defense. They killed Maryland in week 1, 43-3. They only beat Iowa by 1 point last week. So I'm saying Nebraska too. I feel like that they have a real physical team. Both lines are good. We saw that for ourselves in week 1. And, I think people are they've been dogging them. They've gotten some good classes in though, and they're ready to rock and roll. So I see Nebraska taking this one.
Yeah. And actually kind of in maybe a little bit of an advantage they got instead of having to go a first half against Mertz with no, your secondary guys being out. I don't know how good Northwestern's quarterback this year is, but
no, he's
is he still that Clemson kid?
No, it's a transfer from somewhere else though. It's oh my gosh, it is Peyton Ramsey from Indiana.
Yes.
Huh. She's not bad.
Peyton, yeah,
he gave Ohio State fit sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that will be interesting. He can throw the ball. So yeah, I think Nebraska though. What's next?
Michigan State and Iowa, 12 p.m. on ESPN. Iowa favored 6.5.
Does that, to me, that just feels like too much for that game
for Iowa.
Yeah, they're not playing Ohio State,
and Michigan State gets better players than Iowa, anyways.
Yeah.
I don't. Iowa might win, but they're not. I don't think they're winning by 7.
Who's home? Even though it doesn't really matter, but
I believe it would be Iowa.
I think Iowa's probably the better football team. I know Michigan State looked good last week against Michigan, but I still have a lot of question marks about them because them not having a full spring and for Mel Tucker and just they're really behind the 8 ball. It ain't going to be 6.5. That's a 3-point game written all over it to me, maybe a 6-point game. So if you're a betting person, I would take Michigan State, but if I think you're taking straight up, I'm going with Iowa on that one.
Okay. Well, and they're 0-2. They're looking for their first win, so it definitely could happen. All right. Maryland, Penn State, 3:30 on BTN. Maryland is 0-2. Or I'm sorry, Penn State's 0-2. The mighty Terrapins are 1-1 after beating that tough Minnesota team that, Michigan had their ways with. So Penn State is favored by 25 points.
I don't think they're going to beat them by 25. I think they're going to beat them. Penn State's going to get their first win of the year, but I mean, I'm all into little Tua, not Tua.
Little Tua's little brother, Tonga Lavoa.
Yeah.
Tonga Lavoa. Or
yeah.
the guy was, I should know how to say that by now. Tonga Lavoa.
That will be interesting to see how Penn State does against him. I watched pretty much that whole Minnesota game last week. And I mean, he
looked good.
He impressed me.
I'm interested to see if he can spread Ohio State out a little bit.
Yeah. He had, it was kind of weird. He started off really great in that game. Then there was a little bit of a lull. It seemed like Minnesota really finally got him. And then, he explodes in the fourth. And
I stopped watching the game kind of like in the second half. And when it really seemed like Minnesota figured them out and they were going to come back and just, Maryland didn't have there was just too much time left on the clock and Minnesota was going to probably beat them easily. I kind of stopped watching at that point. And then I think I see on Twitter, they're like, oh my God, you missed the extra point. I'm like, huh? And I look at it was the game loser.
I don't think
one of the worst kicks I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, Blake Hobbiel had a bad kick against Penn State, but he was also hurt.
Yeah. I think that, I think Penn State's going to beat them. They're going to beat them easily. I don't know if they're going to beat them by 25. I wasn't impressed last week with Penn State's defense at all. And even though I don't think Maryland's defense is going to be able to shut Penn State down at all.
No.
Because I think Penn State will have their way with them, but I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game.
But I mean, were you even, and there definitely was some lapse of effort in the second half by Ohio State when it came to defense. Like I said, I thought Ohio State could have won that game by 50, and I'm not even trying to be over the top on that. I mean, Ohio State, they could move the ball whenever they wanted to against Penn State, and they could stop Penn State from moving the ball whenever they wanted to. So
yeah,
I'm not sure the defense can stop Talia. I'm not sure the offense. I mean, I don't think Maryland has a good defense, but I didn't see a lot of threats on Penn State's offense as scaring me for them.
Yeah.
I think we had talked about that. We thought Michigan was going to lose that game to Penn State. I don't know. I think they might beat Penn State easily this year.
Yeah. The only thing, I just think Clifford and Fairmouth, they're not going to stop Fairmouth. I mean, they don't have Pete Warner.
Yeah. And that's definitely an X factor because he is the best at what he does in the country.
And Minnesota, who does throw to their tight ends and stuff, they were, handling Maryland fairly well.
Yeah.
And, and I get it, they're 2 backs down, but I mean,
I don't think Penn State's going to win. I don't think Maryland's going to win. I don't think Penn State's winning by 25.
Yeah, and actually I agree with that. All
right. Minnesota and Illinois, battle of 0-2s. Minnesota touchdown favorite.
God, there's a lot of snoozers in this week.
That's a 3:30. I hope there's a good national game on at the time.
Well, that's Florida.
Georgia, that's what do they call it now? It's not the cocktail anymore, right?
It'd be the cocktail party. I'm sure that's been changed too. I mean,
yeah,
I don't want to go down that tangent because this is
right.
I don't we
could be here for hours.
I mean, especially when it's college. I mean, whatever.
Have some fun with it. Yeah.
So, what's that spread?
Minnesota favored by a touchdown, 7.
Yeah, I'll give it to them.
They're hungry.
I did watch a lot of Illinois that first week just because I was interested in seeing Wisconsin, and
yeah, they didn't look good.
They didn't look good against them, and
Purdue beat them by a touchdown last week. Yeah, I think Minnesota beats them by a touchdown. Now, how bad does Minnesota and Michigan look though if Illinois is putting up a bunch of points on Minnesota?
Well, then I would have
how bad's Michigan's defense then?
Yeah, I would worry. I mean, there's things about I mean, I'm really looking forward to later in the year when we get to really start talking to about them. I hope Wisconsin plays them because like,
Is there any truth to Wisconsin sitting out the season, you think?
I don't know. It's if they can't get this under control,
That'd be real crummy to do to everyone else.
yeah. I mean, I guess no. Thank God Ohio State doesn't have them on their schedule.
No, yeah, no doubt about that. All right, well, the next game's your your canceled game because Big Ten didn't leave itself any time for postponed games.
Yeah.
So that brings us last game of the night. Rutgers, Ohio State in Columbus. Ohio State's favored by 38, of course, and we'll get to that later. So.
Yeah, so let's start with our three things. So what do you think on Ohio State's offense against the Rutgers defense? What's the Buckeyes offense got to do?
Game plan, I think, is to get one of your running backs over 120 yards. I don't know which one it is. I don't think you really got to do anything with like Fields in this game or, getting the receiving game in any sort of rhythm. Looks like the offensive line's firing on all cylinders. So I think whichever, you want someone kind of to be established as the horse this week. And I think you're trying to get them between, 120 to 150 yards on the ground.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that. And I think he's going to really go into this game as a head coach that, I got to work on some stuff. My running game, I have to work on that. I got to get them feeling good about themselves. Yeah. I mean, even though Teague didn't look bad last week, I got to get I got to get everybody feeling good about the running game and might as well do it against Rutgers. I mean,
exactly.
And that helps you keep Justin upright. If you're not doing, I mean, they can go, if they go into just a straight running game, I mean, keeps Justin upright so he doesn't have to take too many unnecessary hits. They should be able to still run on them and get up on them. You should be able to get into this game and kind of feel like this is an Ohio State running game, even though it's against a lesser opponent. And, so it might not equate to later in the year, but you got to get them going now.
All I can say is after the next 2 weeks, if you still have doubts about the running game that you think it's a weakness, then they may be in trouble.
Yeah, because they do need to be a little bit more balanced than they are.
And you gotta look dominant on the ground though.
Yeah. So my thing I would say is keep everybody as healthy as possible. I mean, this is a game that you should get your running game going and use all your offensive depth because, I want to see the kids in this game. I don't care if nobody in the Heisman Trophy mix is he only threw 100 yards against Rutgers and been like, they do look at that stuff and be like, well, they took him out after the first quarter and a half.
But I mean, if he goes 6 for 6 or whatever, if he keeps that percentage way up,
as long as he keeps the touchdown. When he does throw the ball, as long as he's still is accurate, he still gets his touchdowns. I think at the end of the day, that's all that's going to matter in a game like this. They're not going to be looking like, everybody thinks that, well, if he throws for 400 yards against Rutgers, that's just padding the stats. I mean, I think if he throws touchdowns, that's all that matters too. So.
Well, I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 400 yards against Georgia Tech. That wasn't just padding the stats.
Yeah, that was whatever.
No, I agree. I also think so. I mean, I am looking at the run game. Sorry to add a second one. I'm kind of thinking that they're going to try to get Jameson Williams like big play time.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I mean,
I don't think Olave and Wilson, honestly, I think they're going to, and I could be completely wrong, but I think they might go a little easy with these guys. They might not have them in there very long.
No.
I think they're going to start working on depth and working on running game.
Yeah. So defense. What do you think?
That's hard because I don't think their offense does anything that you're really looking out for. So I guess just, maybe bouncing back from a weak secondary game, but I don't know if they're going to try to throw at the corners. I mean, they may, because they might say that, they gave up some plays against Penn State, but so I guess I'm looking for Sean Wade to kind of bounce back. Seven Banks just prove that. They got short memories and show how good of players they are.
Sometimes you just
Marcus Hooker is going to get another interception.
Sometimes mine's with the secondary. Sometimes you just need a feel good game. And if I am Ohio State's defense, a thought process in there, I'm putting Sean Wade and Seven Banks both in man coverage the whole game, and I'm putting them right up on those guys.
Don't get aggressive
and bump and run. This team ain't going to beat Ohio State, so embarrass these receivers. That's what I would say. Just get right up in their faces and embarrass them.
Figure these, exactly. I'm also kind of looking forward to see, because I think the personnel is starting to show that you're better off with Proctor on the field too. So I'm kind of looking to see if they're going to start transitioning more into, again, a 2 safety look.
Yeah. All right. And then just your, what do you think on your one player or players that you think that you'd like to either see step up or be a breakout player or just, show up,
Trey Sermon.
That's a good one. I think Trey Sermon, if I like where Master Teague is at, I would be fine if they said Teague was,
I like Master Teague more of a runner than Trey Sermon. Right. I just think it is true when people say, though, that Trey he's a little bit shiftier. Oh, he's a lot shiftier. Yeah. That he does give you. I mean, you and I both said at the beginning of the year, we both projected he's going to have more rushing yards than Master Teague. He's not on pace to do that.
No.
So we could be completely wrong, but if he does give them that option that he's a little bit shiftier, they can hit bigger runs. That's helpful for a team. So I'd like to see him get a couple more handoffs in this game, that he gets, the lion's share of the running responsibilities.
Yeah. Who I'm going to say on players, and I'll get to him here in a second. So I do think actually in the first half, I think they're going to be much more conservative. They're going to let Justin Fields throw it some. He's going to get touchdown passes. I think they really want to establish this running game. But in the second half, who I'm really looking forward to see, and I want to see have big games, is those 2 quarterbacks and those 4 freshman receivers. And I think that we're going to see some fireworks in the second half. And I don't think Day's going to, I don't know if Greg Schiano is going to get an apology after the game about,
I think Day. Yeah. And I think it's a very dangerous Ohio State team too, because they completely overmatch Rutgers, and they may know that, but it's a night game. So you don't really have time to go into this sleepwalking, because you got all day to think about. So it's not really like a trap game. We've seen emotional games in the past, like 17, when they beat Penn State by 1 point and they come out flat against Iowa.
Yeah.
So you just beat Penn State. I mean, for all accounts, you kicked their ass, and people were talking about you not being that good. So I think, it's too late in the day that you're not going to come out sleepwalking in that game. And they're going to be angry because people came out of that after, a pretty dominant win, saying all the things that they do wrong and where they're going to lose at the end of the day. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of scared for Rutgers in this one.
All right. Score times. What do you think?
I've been going around with this. So I had a score in my head all week. It was 66-3. I thought they were going to score. So what would that be? That's 9 touchdowns and a field goal. I think they're actually going to try to work on their kicking game a little bit. So I'm taking away one of the touchdowns. So I think that would put us at 62-3 is what I'm saying.
Actually, I was in a similar thing. So I was bouncing back and forth. Or is it an all touchdown game, or is there a couple of field goals in there? So I'm going to go with it's an all touchdown game. I have it 63-0. I think that I'm just, like I said, I haven't really watched a lot of Rutgers, but I did look through their stats. I'm after I saw for Michigan State last week, I'm surprised Michigan State lost to them. So it's like,
yeah.
And Schiano might be a different coach, but I just don't see. I'm not impressed with anything I'm seeing right now on the offensive side of the ball.
Schiano's signature win for this year was that first week.
Like I'm just not.
He's not going to get that signature win for a couple years.
Yeah. So I'm not seeing it anywhere that they're going to be able to put up things. I think this is that type of game where Ohio State, they don't want to get injuries, but they're going to use a lot of depth in this game. And
I really believe so.
And they're just going to just keep throwing depth at Rutgers. And
Julian Fleming, I think he's getting his first touchdown this week.
I could see it. I like I said, I think that second half is really, you're going to see both freshman quarterbacks. Probably, I'm hoping the whole second half, because
I don't want to see. I'm sorry to Gunnar Hoke. I know we didn't see him a lot last year, but he's not the future of this team.
Yeah, and
I think those guys are better than him.
And I want to see all four. I mean, part of it's for health reasons. I don't want, Fields and Olave and Wilson taking too many unnecessarily hits when you don't have to. And I want to see what those 4 freshman receivers can do.
I don't anticipate any of those guys playing into the second half.
No.
But they could. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
We've seen Dave brings guys out when games are in hand. He brings them out later on. And that could have all been getting Fields ready for his system, though, last year. So it might be a different story this year.
Yeah, I think we're going to see them establish the running game and let Fields get a couple touchdowns. I think they're going to have a very nice 35-42 nothing lead going into halftime,
Yeah.
And, then the second half is just, those last 3-4 touchdowns are going to be the freshmen.
And who knows? Steel Chambers might break a few.
Yeah. And that would be interesting to see how he, especially if, even though it's supposedly against, Rutgers' first team, I don't know what the drop off is, but if Master Teague and Sermon can't necessarily establish themselves early, and Steele ends up having a really good second half, it'd be interesting then what the game plan going forward is with that.
I understand north of 4 yards per carry isn't what we're used to, that we're used to, 7 yards per carry, but there was no reason to go away from Master Teague or Steel Chambers against Penn State. They were effective runners. We want dominant runners, though. So I agree with you. If they're looking like they did against Nebraska, I think Steel Chambers will get an earlier call this week.
Yeah. All right. I think that will do it for this week. I think we're both expecting this one to be a pretty, I think our eyeballs might be, drifting a little bit to some of the other games.
Does Brendan White have an interception?
No.
Absolutely not.
Maybe against one of the freshmen, but no.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't think we are, though. They don't match up anywhere against Ohio State. There's not one spot that they're better than us on either side of the ball.
Brandon White will get a bunch of hugs at the end of the game. It'll be good to see him again.
He might have a lot of tackles.
I do regret that they couldn't, Pete Warner and the way that they redid the system last year with the 3-1, that, kind of screwed Brandon White and that type of thing, but it worked for Ohio State. I do like Brandon White. I thought he was at the end of that abysmal 2018 defense.
It was like he was piecing it together.
He was like that the one shining hope you had.
Of course, it was Nebraska. He had like a breakout game, right?
Yeah.
And then Maryland, he couldn't make a tackle.
Yeah.
But nobody could in that game.
All right. So just want to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to us here on YouTube and like the channel or get the all notifications. Same thing with all of the podcast networks. You'll see our link tree in the show notes that will get you to all the different podcast networks. It'll get you to our YouTube channel, and it'll get us to all the social media feeds. So please follow us across all of our feeds. Pick your podcast provider, follow us on YouTube and all the social media things. It helps us out greatly. And outside of that, and you also, we just love talking to all of our fans. So hope everybody has a good night, and we will, before we're signing off, I do remind everybody, remember, if you are free on the 13th, the 9th, that big night of bourbon, sounds like an excellent event and helps out the big brothers and big sisters of Central Ohio. So we'll have that in the show notes as well.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
I-O. Well, thank you for watching here, the Buckeye Bar guys, here on the Buckeye Bar Talk network. Please subscribe to the network, and when you get the little notification bell, just hit that. Hit all notifications. That way you will get alerted when all the new episodes come up. comment, like the show, and we hope to you join our community. Come join our bar.
Like, comment, share. I'm John. That's Mike. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.